Once upon a time, in a beautiful French chateau nestled in the countryside, there lived a kind and gentle young woman. Her name was Cinderella, and she spent her days sweeping cinders from the hearth, dreaming of a better life. Despite her hardships, hope still sparkled in her eyes like the dust motes dancing in the sunbeam. But her cruel stepmother, Lady Tremaine, watched her with cold, piercing eyes. Her stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella, delighted in making impossible demands. One day, Cinderella discovered her mother's beautiful pink gown hidden away in an old trunk. When a royal invitation arrived, announcing a grand ball at the palace, Cinderella's heart filled with hope. With help from her loyal mice friends, she lovingly transformed her mother's dress. The finished gown was beautiful, adorned with ribbons and beads by her tiny friends. But when she descended the stairs, her stepfamily's jealousy ignited. In moments, they tore her dress to shreds, scattering beads across the floor like tears. Heartbroken, Cinderella fled to the garden and wept beneath the cold moonlight. But then, something magical happened. A single teardrop began to sparkle with otherworldly light. A warm, glowing figure appeared before her, her fairy godmother. "Nonsense, child," the godmother said gently. "Dry those tears. You shall go to the ball." With a wave of her wand, she cried, "Bibbidi-bobbidi-boo." A pumpkin swelled and transformed into a magnificent golden carriage. Her mice friends became powerful white stallions. Her old horse, Major, became a distinguished coachman, and Bruno the dog became a dignified footman. Then, with one final flourish, her rags became a breathtaking ball gown, and on her feet appeared the most delicate glass slippers, woven from pure moonlight. "But remember," warned the fairy godmother, "on the stroke of midnight, the spell will be broken." Cinderella gazed at her reflection in wonder, scarcely believing her eyes, and off she went to the ball, leaving a trail of magic in her wake. The royal palace shimmered with 1,000 lights as fireworks painted the night sky. When Cinderella entered the ballroom, the entire court fell silent in awe. The prince's eyes met hers, and in that moment, he was utterly enchanted. They danced alone in the center of the ballroom, lost in each other's eyes. But Lady Tremaine watched from the shadows, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. On the palace balcony, Cinderella and the prince talked and laughed under paper lanterns. Then the clock began to chime. Bong! Bong! The first stroke of midnight. Panic seized Cinderella's heart. She'd forgotten the warning. She ran through the ballroom, pushing past bewildered guests. In her haste, one glass slipper flew from her foot and tumbled down the palace stairs. The prince pursued her, but found only the lost slipper, which he lifted with a vow. As Cinderella fled, the magic faded. Her gown became rags, her carriage a pumpkin once more. But in her pocket remained one glass slipper, proof that it had all been real. The prince vowed to search the entire kingdom for the woman whose foot fit the slipper. The Grand Duke traveled from house to house, trying the slipper on every maiden. When the royal carriage arrived at Cinderella's home, her stepsisters fought to be first. Anastasia tried desperately to force her foot into the delicate slipper. Drizella's attempt was even more ridiculous and equally unsuccessful. But Lady Tremaine had locked Cinderella in the attic, the key hidden in her pocket. Cinderella was imprisoned in darkness, with only a single beam of light for comfort. But her brave friends Jack and Gus had a plan. In a daring heist, the mice and birds stole the key from the stepmother. Together, they struggled to carry the heavy key up the winding stairs. The key slid under the door, and Cinderella was free. "Your Grace!" cried Cinderella, just as the Grand Duke was about to leave. In a final act of cruelty, the stepmother tripped the footman carrying the slipper. The glass slipper shattered into 1,000 glittering pieces on the marble floor. But Cinderella smiled calmly and said, "Perhaps this will help." From her apron, she produced the other glass slipper, perfect and intact. It fit perfectly, emitting a soft, magical chime as it slipped onto her foot. The prince burst into the room, and his eyes met Cinderella's in joyful recognition. Soon after, a magnificent royal wedding was held, and the kingdom rejoiced. The prince and Cinderella shared their first kiss as husband and wife. Even their animal friends celebrated, dressed in tiny royal attire. And they lived happily ever after.